Hi everyone, and welcome to episode number 6 of Sabrina Love's Love Notes. I am Sabrina Love. No makeup, no fancy lashes, no nonsense, just my opinion and my thoughts on 4 current issues that are affecting our communities and our societies as the GLBT community as a whole, and some very specific points that reflect the way our society thinks of us and the way that they treat us from day to day. Each of these issues are super important. Some of them you may be familiar with, some of them not, but it's my job to introduce these issues to you, to make you aware of these issues, and to give you my thoughts on them so that we can start the conversation and make a difference in today's society. If we don't rise up and become the spokespeople for our community and for our generations, then no one else will. Most of these issues with this 24-hour news cycle of things always coming up, very few times do we actually get to sit and spend a little bit of time on particular issues that we can really make a difference in. So, we've got 4 issues to talk about today. I do apologize for not being on for Friday night's episode. We had a little family issue that I had to take care of, but this is Tuesday's issue that will come out tonight around midnight on Monday night, and that's how they come out now. It'll be out about midnight going into Tuesday and about midnight going into Friday. So keep the comments coming, keep your agreements and disagreements and coming to me so that I can address those. Thank you for your support on this project. Pass the link along to other folks because really this is about getting a conversation started so that we can better our society and keep informed on a much higher level. I'm also going to end the show like I did last episode and will do going forward with a section called What If, where I'm going to turn the situations that we talk about around a little bit to a different perspective and let you see how these things would play out if it wasn't a gay issue specifically. So, on that, I do want to say happy anniversary to Brandon, my boo, my partner in crime, my love of my life. 1 year ago on Saturday, so 1 year knocking it down. And that's a great milestone for me and for Brandon, and I wanted to share that with you, and I appreciate all the messages that I did get back from you about the anniversary. So, let's talk about 4 issues. Let's start with issue number 1. Issue number 1. This one's been a hot topic of debate for years. And I want to kind of address it in a different light. We're talking about Chick-fil-A. We're talking about Chick-fil-A's stance on the LGBT community. And Chick-fil-A is noted for the fact that they are a very religious organization. It's a private company. It's not public. And the Cathy family has ran this organization from the time it opened until today. It's 3rd or 4th generation Cathy, and they make significant contributions every year in excess of over $2 million to right-wing fundamentalist religious action groups to make a stand for that belief in baptism and Christianity. And there's been a lot of rebound from the gay community in that because this restaurant supports causes that then support an anti-gay agenda, should Chick-fil-A be a boycotted restaurant? Well, here's what I think about this. First of all, Chick-fil-A is delicious, okay? But that's irrelevant. These companies have the right, if they're a private company, they have the right to spend their profits and their money really any way they want to. Now, Chick-fil-A does not specifically have an anti-gay policy, but they have plenty of anti-gay hints in the way that they operate their business. They are closed on Sunday for religious purposes. They do submit a significant amount of cash flow into these anti-gay movements, but it's actually the anti-gay organizations and super PACs and committees that do the bidding as far as the anti-LGBT community. They do this with money from Chick-fil-A and with money from thousands of other organizations and individuals. So, I do think that Chick-fil-A has a certain responsibility to the community to not play part in religious and political beliefs because you have a separation of church and state. And if you start getting private companies into social issues and into determining social and moral beliefs, I do believe that that puts a certain burden on the company that says this company stands for X, Y, and Z. and it does tend to elude from people. But I do not think that this is an organization that necessarily needs to have a stance one way or the other. What companies, and if you'll look up, HRC does a listing every year of the most gay-friendly and gay-positive corporations as the way they spend their money, as the way they set their policies and procedures. And there are tons of companies that do support or give money to these organizations that are very anti-gay. It is up to you as the consumer to decide, is Chick-fil-A and their donations to these religious and right-wing conservative parties enough for you to make a stance and not go there based on those issues? Chick-fil-A does not specifically outline an anti-gay policy, although they certainly don't have domestic partner benefits. They don't do anything for same-sex couples or for gay rights or for any kind of transgender issues. And that goes with a lot of other companies that don't have those policies. We're always screaming out yay and hooray for the companies that do, like Starbucks that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. But I think it's up to you to decide if you want your money to go to these organizations that promote this agenda. I wouldn't say that it is about, if you spend your money with Chick-fil-A, that you are supporting or not supporting these anti-gay movements and these anti-gay committees. I think you have to decide, is it on your moral compass that any money going to an organization that has a stance or that contributes to these organizations should be boycotted? And I challenge you to do this, and I did this earlier today when I was working on this story, is to go to the HRC website, look at their ratings of restaurants and retail shops and organizations that rank the lowest on their scale, and decide if you're going to remove your support from all of those companies because of their stance. Chick-fil-A is part of that group of people, but I think if we're going to make a stand about companies who do this and have inherent records of supporting anti-gay legislation, then we should boycott them all. And that's a big deal because there are so many that do. So if we're going to make a stand, we should make a stand to boycott all of these institutions, whether retail, food service, social organizations. We should boycott all of them and not target ones that are more popular than the others. All the ones that were on the list were companies that I have done business with before, both professionally and personally. So I'm not going to give you a solid opinion on this because I know that these organizations are companies that I have used and that I continue to use. And I think until they actually come out and make a stand as a company against LGBT rights, that we have to be very careful in boycotting unless we want to boycott companies on this list as a whole. And if that's the case and we decide to tackle these companies, we have to be 100% behind it and not say, well, this one time it won't matter because I really need my chicken nuggets. So if we're going to attack this way and we're going to make change by boycotting the entire group of people, we really have to make a strong stand. Standing against one institution really will make no difference, in my opinion, to people making donations out of their own private corporations. So look at the list, shoot back some messages to me, let me know what you think, and maybe we'll turn an episode in the future into organizations that we should support and organizations that we should boycott as a whole. And if we decide to do that, stick to it. Stick to the change that needs to be made over the long haul. A week of not going to Chick-fil-A will not make a dent in the money that they spend on these super PACs and these committees. So let's talk about it. I want to hear your opinion, but I wanted to bring it to your attention so that you kind of get an idea that it's a bigger job than just one set of restaurant chains. It really encompasses so many businesses, probably some that you shop at now that you don't even realize have this stance. So check out the HRC Equality Survey. Check out those businesses. Get your information back to me. Let me know how you feel. And let's tackle this. One way or another, we have to make sure that companies are not producers of hate, that they don't make their millions and billions of dollars worth of profit to spread hate and discrimination. And if that's the case, let's boycott them all. Let's make our statement known because our voice together is a tremendous voice that can truly affect change. Issue number 1. Okay, issue number 2. Now, this one just broke today, and it's a really incredible story. I do not have a lot of details because they're not releasing the significant details, but here's the generalization of what happened. Recently, at a military ball, a captain in the Army, a female captain in the Army, which is a very nice rank, it's high on the totem pole. She was a lesbian, and she did bring her longtime girlfriend to the military ball. They were dancing on the floor with everyone else, and her squadron commander came to the dance floor, pushed her and her partner off the dance floor, said they were an abomination, said that they should be thrown out of the military, and really made a public scene of this Army captain and her lesbian girlfriend. Then the next day, I'm sure because the higher-ups than the squadron commander found out the way he handled the business, called the girlfriend to apologize, said he supported the gay rights issue in the United States military, said he didn't mean it. It was a miscommunication. Okay? That's the facts that have been released so far. It's a very short article. Here's the deal. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was erased. It was put to the side. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and the President of the United States came together, and that's what it takes. That's what it took to change this. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and the President of the United States all had to agree to throw this out, and they did. And now you have a culture of Don't Ask, Don't Tell gone away, which was a horrible legislation, but now it's gone, and still someone that's even to the rank of captain in the United States Army is pushed off, not in wartime, not over in some, country where we're fighting for freedom or where we're using military options. In the United States, at a military ball, a dressed-up prom, if you will, told and made a scene and physically pushed these two women off the dance floor, called them an abomination, and then after he was reprimanded, which you have to assume that he was, or else he would have never called to apologize, makes this call, apologizes, says it was a miscommunication. Well, sir, there is no miscommunication. When you put your hands on someone, push them out of a public event, make a scene by using the words abomination and telling them that they are the destruction of the moral fabric of America, and you are imposing your views and your rights on other folks who have a different set of rules and a different set of rights because of their life. And no matter how long it's going to take for Don't Ask, Don't Tell to officially become policy, I think the United States military made a huge step when they said all of these leaders, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, the President, all said we're taking this out. It's no longer valid. You are allowed to be who you are in military combat, and you are pushing us back 30, 40, 50, 60 years back into the Stone Age, basically, where people thought that you had to be a man, a straight heterosexual man, to enter the military. Women were not allowed to be in the military. Women were not allowed to be obviously promoted all the way up to captain. I mean, this is a woman, and I don't have her name, I don't have her regiment, I don't know where she was stationed, it doesn't say any of that, but it's the principle that this woman has risen through the ranks, so she's obviously earned what she's been rewarded with. You don't just get to be an honorary captain. There are 9 steps before you get to be a captain in the United States Army. So she's had 9 promotions, and still she is put on the playing field of subhuman, of less than human. I think the CO, and if the administration and the government really wants to make a stand about Don't Ask, Don't Tell being no longer the correct procedure, they should take this CO, knock him down a level, and he should be held completely responsible for causing this scene, for demoralizing his troops. If nothing is conduct unbecoming of a military officer, that is conduct unbecoming. Not only do I not trust that this commanding officer could represent the United States in a foreign country or in the United States in an official capacity, I don't think that someone who passes judgment on his fellow Army soldiers should be in charge of anything. I think if you cannot earn the respect of your fellow soldiers and you cannot hold back your principles and your beliefs and follow the United States Code of Military Justice, which sets the rules and guidelines for everybody, then I don't think you should be a commanding officer. You yourself, no matter what you think of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it's been repealed. And if you as a military officer cannot control your own inflections and your own words and your own actions to your own soldiers. I certainly don't trust you to represent the United States of America in foreign countries and on home soil as a leader for the military. We have the most powerful military in the world, and I certainly don't think that your personal actions are a reflection of what a good commanding officer should be. I think he should be demoted, or I think he should be court-martialed, and stay with me on this. I think he should be court-martialed and dishonorably discharged, because that is the very definition of being a good soldier, is the very definition of derelict of duty. It's a very definition of a violation of the Code of Military Justice. If you can't follow and soldiers are ingrained to follow the rules and follow the codes set forth by the military, and if you can't conduct yourself properly at a public military event, a dance, a prom, for lack of a better word, then I certainly don't trust that you're carrying the message of the majority of Americans to these other foreign countries where we're trying to introduce democracy and freedom when you don't even yourself believe in the freedom for your own soldiers. It's time for the CO to be court-martialed, to be demoted at the very least, but action has to be taken, or else we'll be back in the same boat with some of the other issues that we've talked about, where we only say you have to treat people as equals on paper, and we don't actually judge people on their actions. Man, actions speak 1,000 words. And if your actions do not follow the law, you should pay the consequences. I support the captain. Good for her on being brave enough and being strong enough in her convictions and in her life to bring your girlfriend, your longtime partner, to an official military function. I think that's the face of a military officer that I would want. One that represents the democracies and freedoms that we're all afforded as Americans, and not to be subjected and punished by some people who haven't quite caught up with the times. More on this story as it comes available. I'm sure there's going to be lots more details, but I wanted to break that to you as soon as it came out. Okay? Number 2. Done. Issue number 3. Bill O'Reilly. Now, for those of you who don't follow the news a lot, Bill O'Reilly is a big-time news talk show host on Fox News, which is the Republican right-wing soundboard. It is the news channel for all things Republican. Bill O'Reilly is a very famous figure who has his own talk show on Fox News, has had for years, is very staunch Republican, very staunch to the right, and a very conservative, anything but Obama kind of guy. Now, Bill O'Reilly began to talk with a selection of guests on his show, and the subject was mainstream television and its impact on today's youth. And they brought up the show Glee. I'm not a huge fan of Glee, but that's just me. I think the message that it portrays is fantastic. I think that they've really taken a primetime show and interjected so many values and morals and watching to see how kids really can be when they're given the opportunity to be whoever they want to be. I think they've really done a great job in that. I think it's garnered so much attention that they're able to put forth platforms of current social issues and work through them because they have such a big audience. And I think they do an amazing job. But Bill O'Reilly had a guest on his show. Her name was Gretchen Carlson. And they began to have this conversation where they felt that watching Glee would help children to embrace their homosexuality, that it would convince other young folks that it would be okay to experiment with homosexuality, that it would be okay to toy outside the norms of what they consider to be straight world just because they're on a TV show. And Bill O'Reilly said, well, I know that when I watched television when I was a kid, I would see James Dean smoke on TV, and that's what caused me to smoke. Well, here's my whole problem with this, okay? If Bill O'Reilly, who makes millions and millions of dollars a year, spouting his nonsense to the television camera for millions and millions of people to see, and his decision-making is no better than being influenced to smoke from TV, then I don't think Bill O'Reilly has a voice to say anything to anybody. If you're so powerful and your words carry on and are the actions for so many people's beliefs, and you're influenced on something as simple as cigarette smoking because you watch television, then I think your influence meter is all over the place and it's all wrong. You can watch, an ad for Activia, and just because Jamie Lee Curtis is on there, you got to run down and eat yogurt 3 times a day. Nobody lives like that, Mr. O'Reilly. Nobody that I know, and nobody, because I give credit to the younger generation of our society. I believe they have a lot more brains and a lot more know-how than we did when we were growing up, and certainly when our parents grew up, because we're changing and evolving as a society every year. I don't think that just because someone watches Glee that they're going to run out and decide to jack some boy off in the car when they're going home tomorrow. I don't believe that they're going to call up and arrange a gay orgy just because they were watching, a guy kiss a guy on TV. I think it is a momentum that every year the society gets a little more comfortable with what it has considered its kind of sects of society, sects, S-E-C-T-S, not sex, but its little sects of society, the little smaller minority groups, which the LGBT community is, but over time, societies become more accepted. When we passed the Civil Rights Act, the black community became more accepted. When we passed the Women's Suffrage Act and let women vote, the women were equal to men and brought into the fold. And when we passed non-discrimination laws that allow gay and lesbians to have equal protection under the law, these people, and Bill O'Reilly is assuming that people have a choice in this matter. It is not a choice that I'm going to make based on a TV show. This is a genetic condition. This is the way that we were built. This is the way that we were made. And we can watch as many straight television programs. We can watch The Bachelor for 1,000,000 years. And it does not mean that we're going to turn and go have a straight orgy because we saw some straight folks on television doing it. Okay? And that's what nobody ever does, is they don't ever turn the tables on this, which is what I'll do in What If. But just a little precursor to that, if this were a straight television show and it were causing gay kids to go out and have these straight orgies or to experiment with heterosexuality, nobody would say a word about that because it's not the way it works. It doesn't happen like that. So why, if it doesn't happen like that for straight society, does it have to happen like that for gay society? Because people that have a big mouth, people that have access to broadcasting are are against the gay and lesbian society as a whole in general, they never think that what they spout could happen for straight folks. They never would come on TV if a Democrat said, came out, a very staunch Democrat, someone who had a platform on television and said, I think that the more people watch whatever straight program it is, the more gay people that watch this straight program, we're going to have a lot of gay kids experimenting with heterosexuality. Bill O'Reilly is a mess. He's a mess. And they always look at these minorities just as that, as minorities with less protection, less rights, less laws that govern our society. And it's things like that that absolutely disgust me because nobody flips the tables and looks at it from the other point of view. Listen, if you've ever watched Glee as a straight person and then decided to go have a gay experience, please send me an email. Please send me a message. Let me know, because I'll change my position and turn this whole show around and focus it on you and how you were able to get your brain to work so that it fired the straight engines while you were watching, some straight program, or why, if you were watching Glee, that all of a sudden your straight mind sent out all these impulses and all of a sudden you had to jump on Adam for Adam. Please send me your message if that's the case. I bet it's not the case. I know it's not the case. And Bill O'Reilly, you're a fucking idiot. Issue number 3. Okay, issue number 4. These are the hardest issues that I have to talk about, and it's happened again. Kenneth Weishan was a 14-year-old kid from Iowa that came out earlier in the year, had a tremendous group of friends and a tremendous support system when he came before he came out. Once he came out, those friends turned on him, began posting horrible messages on his Facebook page, began sending horrible text messages to his phone, completely changed their friendships to become enemies, and made his life a living hell. And at 14 years old, here this past week, Kenneth has committed suicide and is no longer with us. It is so basic of every gay man and woman to make sure that the message gets out that people need support. People need to understand that bullying should be a capital offense. Bullying should be something that is charged and monitored and dealt with constantly in our school system, constantly in our communities, because it seems that every week now I'm getting more information about another child who has committed suicide, and it's not always gay-related. Sometimes it's because they have disabilities. Sometimes it's because they have red hair. Sometimes it's because they were hanging out with a certain group of people that are not considered in the cool clique of people. But we've lost another member of society who had his entire life before him, who could have grown up to be the next president of HRC, who could have grown up to be the next president of the United States, could have grown up to be the next barista at Starbucks, could have had an impact in our society. But because the laws will not put the power in the hands of our educators and not hold the community and parents responsible for their underage children's actions and hold the children themselves responsible for their actions and create a culture where bullying and picking on people is not allowed, is not tolerated with, and from the first instance, those problems are addressed, they're dealt with, they're handled, and bullying never gets to be the huge issue that's caught. Can you imagine how much bullying and how much pressure would have to be on you before you would result in taking your own life? Can you imagine the amount of pressure on a 14-year-old child? No grown adult would be capable of dealing with that much pressure without taking some action to fix it. And a 14-year-old child not only cannot mentally handle that stress, you're going into puberty, you're going into junior high and into high school, you're almost ready to get your first driver's license. The pressures are intense anyway when you're at that age, and your mind is confused, and you're growing up and things are changing, and there's so much pressure now because you are who you are, and you have the gumption and the courage to come out and say, I'm not going to live under this shelter, under this barrier. I'm going to be who I am. And no one felt, well, he didn't feel that there was anyone he could go to, anyone that would make a difference, anyone that could stop the nonsense. And now a 14-year-old child has killed themselves because people would not leave him alone. And trust me, this is not one Facebook post and someone decided to send him. It's not one text message. This is a gaggle. They were sending Facebook posts and sending texts after he committed suicide. They were continuing to do that until they actually took the Facebook page down. They were continuing, saying this world is better off without you. We have got to take a stand. We have got to be the people that say, you can come to us and we can fix this, educators. You can come to us and we can fix this, local law enforcement. You can come to us and we can fix this, parents. You can come to us and we can fix this, friends. We have got to be willing to stand up, to put an end to this, to report it when it happens, and know that by reporting it, the people we report it to are going to affect the change in that behavior. They need to be held accountable. They need to be charged. They need to be put in front of a court, because you can no longer say that the actions of another person, their words, their thoughts, the way that they project things onto you. We are allowed to think anything we want in this country. But when those thoughts become actions and those actions become words and that becomes targeted, you're talking about, again, domestic terrorism on a specific group of people, and we're allowing it to happen. If you have not seen Bully, go see the movie Bully. It will change your perspective for the rest of your life. You will see that the bullying issue is not a gay and lesbian issue. It's a human issue. It affects the human condition. And we're allowing it to happen with no repercussions because someone, well, they were uncomfortable. Well, they thought you might come on to them. They thought you might make advances towards them. It's always sexual. We're just trying to live our lives as Americans, as human beings, as members of the human race. And if someone doesn't get a hold of this, and so educators have the power to enforce rules in their classrooms. Principals have the means to expel these students and to put them on suspension. Parents have the foreknowledge and the abilities to punish their children, and local law enforcement has the ability to lock them up for threats and for actions, because if we don't do something, these kids are going to continue to commit suicide. They're going to continue to fall out of the potential that they have in their young life to become great things and to help us carry on the package of the gay history and the gay legacies that so many people have died for, that we're letting our children take their own lives and be killed because it has nothing to do with the fact whether they're strong enough to deal with it. They shouldn't have to deal with it in the first place. It wouldn't work on a different member in a minority group, and it shouldn't work on this one. We have got to put the power in the people's hands that can stop these issues, and they need to be dealt with in every other, just like every other issue at school dealing with violence or in the neighborhood dealing with violence is dealt. If you have someone who's beating someone up every day at school, that's dealt with. If you have someone that's constantly beating people up in the neighborhood, or someone that's going around shoving people or robbing people, we deal with these little petty crimes, and we should deal with bullying, because not only does this issue not leave any bruises, scrapes, black eyes, broken arms, this takes away a human soul. This kills a human soul, because we're not going to stand up and say, you cannot harass these people or there is punishment. You cannot interject your feelings into someone else when it is based in hate. We're not going to allow it, and you will be punished for it. And if we punish long enough and we make it a statement and we stand beside it that bullying will not be allowed and there are repercussions for your actions, the kids will continue to do what they do because there's no reason for them not to. The people who are stupid enough, for lack of a better word, to treat other human beings the way that they're treated, and we all know what it's like to be picked on in school. Everybody's picked on in school. But when this becomes a hate issue, a issue that is nothing but hate, not because of the person, but because of the life that they live, because of the lifestyle that they have, it would never be allowed to happen to a straight person. It would never be allowed to happen to someone with a disability, someone of a different race. So why are we allowing it to do? I don't know what the perfect solution is, but I know together, you have your ideas, you have your thoughts, and together we can come up with the perfect solution to stop this. It has to be stopped. We cannot report any more Kenneths, but we will continue to report them until we stand up and find a way to stop this face-on. I need your help in this project. I need your help in finding a perfect solution, because together we can change the law. We can make sure that laws are enacted, and we have to. How many people have to die before we decide that we need for this to stop? How many people have to take their own lives because we're not concerned enough to make a safe haven for people who are different? I need your help on this one. That's issue number 4. Okay, now we're going to wrap all these 4 issues up with the what if section. And issue number 1 was about Chick-fil-A. Now, if Chick-fil-A were spending that $2 million to support the HRC, for example, a human rights campaign, that would make many organizations like the National Organization of Marriage, like several, many right-wing conservative fundamentalist groups upset because they were spending their money on issues that those organizations didn't agree with. I think it's a very sticky situation because you have to make the decision. If you're going to boycott restaurants, retail stores, organizations that pay for anti-gay rhetoric and anti-gay campaigns, we really would have to stick to an entire group and go through that list on the equality survey and say we're not going to spend our money for these companies to send out this money to groups that want to end our liberties and our freedoms. So if we do all of that, then we do make a difference. But if we pick and choose one restaurant here, one retail store here, we get to the point where nobody really understands why you're boycotting, and you've got boycotts on all these other little areas instead of coming together as a group. I believe we can affect change, and if we decide to boycott the entire list, then that should be an adventure for us. Sorry, these are one takes. That should be a process that we boycott all of these groups and make a fundamental change across the board. Food service, retail, organizations, we should be making sure that the entire gamut of these national organizations feel our wrath. I don't think that boycotting one organization without knowing all these other organizations. You could skip going to Chick-fil-A and go to Mom and Dad's Chicken Nugget Shack. But if you research Mom and Dad's Chicken Nugget Shack, you realize they spend more, and they spend it all locally on anti-gay programs and anti-gay campaigns. So I think if you're going to set out boycotts and you're going to decide where your money goes, and I think you should, then you should really take a look at that entire list and base your purchases and your social activities based on that. That's the way to affect change, is for everybody to boycott the group, not just the individuals. We make very little change there. Issue number 2 was about the Army captain. Now, what if this were a straight Army captain, man and woman, heterosexual, on the dance floor, and a lesbian or gay commanding officer pushed them off the stage, said they were an abomination, disagreed with the way they were having public displays of affection? There would be no question that that commanding officer would be in a serious amount of shit. You know, then you would talk about court-martialing and conduct unbecoming. You would do all of those things, because that's crazy. That's someone from a different community projecting their views and opinions on another group of people, and that doesn't fly in this country. But it's not that big of an issue if it's the straight population pushing the gay population off the dance floor. It's called equal rights and equal protections for a reason. It's equal, and it should be equal, and that's why I say this male heterosexual commanding officer, squadron commander, should be held to the same accountability if the roles were reversed and this were a gay commanding officer chastising his straight soldiers. That's what I think. Number 3, okay, so until we fix the whole media problem, where you have all this media coming at you at one time and 50,000 different views, you really have to filter in your brain which part of it you're going to listen to. But if you have someone with a national platform who spews the ridiculousness, okay? Let's say Rachel Maddow, who is a lesbian, who's on MSNBC, she has her own talk show. Let's say she said that watching too many episodes of The Bachelor turned gay kids straight, and it had to be fixed. Nobody and their brother would take that seriously. Nobody in their craziest imagination would think that watching too much of The Bachelor would turn gay kids straight. So why is it so easy to assume that if you watch Glee, your straight kids could turn out gay, run to a sex-fueled orgy? And the woman that was on the panel said that this was all because of celebrities and their drug-fueled rampages, because everybody can be gay now and it's okay. Turn the tables, ma'am. Turn the tables, Bill O'Reilly. If straight people were watching The Bachelor and it was turning them gay, then you'd have a platform to stand on. Look at the mirror, and remember, it has 2 faces, Bill, and you're only looking through one lens. Finally, issue number 4, if these kids, like I said before in that issue, if these kids were straight and they were being bullied because they were straight, or they were being bullied because they were black or Asian or Mexican or Hispanic or Arabian or Chinese, or even, you know, white kids, if they were being picked on because of their race, because of their disability, because of the way they had their hair cut, and they were committing suicide in tremendous numbers. You know, you're reading about a new suicide every week, every 2 weeks. And if these were straight kids that were picked on because they had a handicap or because they went out with a certain type of girl, we would never stand for it. We would put an end to it right away. We would have fucking SWAT teams in our schools monitoring. We'd have the CIA watching over our kids' internet usage. We'd never put up with it. But again, the whole thing about these what-ifs is if we turned this around on the straight society and made it a straight issue and not a gay issue, none of these issues would ever get on national television. They would never be allowed to grow into the issues that they are now. I wouldn't need to do this program. But we constantly have people looking through the mirror just one way and never turn it around and look to see what we would do if the issue was pointed back towards us. We have to realize that if this were in another set of circumstances, this were a straight kid being bullied because he was straight, or a black kid being bullied because he was black, or a disabled child being bullied because they were disabled, we would never stand for it. The high and mighties from all those groups would hit the airwaves and say what an abomination this was and it had to stop. Well, it has to stop. I'm not a high and mighty, but with your help, We can put the voice out there, and we can affect change. That's going to wrap up this week's episode of Love Notes. I want to thank you for sticking with me and sticking with the program, giving me your comments and your suggestions. Please pass the link on. It's not about my voice. It's about getting the conversation started. And with your help, we can keep the conversation going. Don't forget, May 8th is coming up. Vote no on Amendment 1. Don't forget, just because it's the Republican primary, that issue is on the ballot. We have to go vote that day. Just because it's a Republican primary, don't worry. That's not why you're going to vote. You don't even have to vote for president. Go vote no on Amendment 1. Tell your friends. Take them with you. Get everybody you know that's registered to go vote. We have to defeat Amendment 1. Trust me, you and your kids and your grandkids and your nieces and your nephews, all of the future generations will thank you for standing up for this. Lastly, rest in peace, Arabia Night Adams. You were a superstar, a incredible entertainer, and a voice for a community that has been left silent. And I will remember you for the good things that you did for this community, for your grace, your poise, your stature, for your constant professionalism, your families and your gay families, as well as your straight and biological families are all in my prayers. Rest in peace, Arabia. You will definitely be missed. Until next time, that'll be Friday going into midnight. I am the one, the only, Sabrina motherfucking Love. For 19 fucking years, I've been the hardest working bitch in this business, and it's because you lived for it, you loved it, and you respected it. Just as I live for, love, and respect each and every one of you for supporting me for 19 years. And I am the hardest working bitch in show business today. Until Friday. Good night.